Hello lovely people, you all are once again most welcome to Tutorials Point. Well, with the media, with the newspapers, with the public discussions, with the discussions with your families flooded with just one topic, and that is coronavirus. What are certain words or sort of which can actually, how do you actually benefit to upskill your vocabulary during this time of lockdown, when this pandemic has hit the world and when everybody is like everybody is actually sitting at home and working. And how do you think could you actually use this opportunity, this situation, to upskill your vocabulary? Well, in this video we're going to discuss about a guide to coronavirus related words. So definitely there are certain words which, because almost every discussion nowadays is about coronavirus, so definitely there are going to be certain words which are going to be repeated time and again. So it is a great idea to upskill ourselves and learn about these words, so that if they are being used in any discussion, any important discussion, we don't miss out on any important point. Well then, without any further ado, let's go ahead. Formite. Now, what is a formite? Now, formite is an object such as a dish, a doorknob, anything that may be contaminated with infectious organisms and serve in their transmission. So isn't everything going around whenever we go out nowadays, or isn't everything being sanitized? Well, it is being sanitized because it could be a formite, right? A potential to actually eliminate the risk of a potential formite. There's time and again there's sanitization which takes place nowadays, and so that we are all safe, so that we all don't contaminate ourselves with coronavirus. We want to eliminate the risk of any formite, and we want to actually sanitize as much as possible and sanitize our hands, sanitize anything or everything that we end up touching. So yes, formite is that potential object which could act as a a place or an object of transmission, right? So let's look at an example. 10 formites were sampled and cleaning this month. So obviously it is very important to sanitize each and every formite that we come across, and so that we don't get into this risk of, so that we eliminate the risk of coronavirus as much as possible. Okay, now the most commonly used word in this corona era is epidemic, pandemic, and outbreak. Now, how are these three words related, or are they actually very similar, or how different? If they are different from each other, to what degree are they different? Okay, an outbreak is a sudden rise in the incidence of a disease. So any disease, if it suddenly just breaks out, that is when it is called as an outbreak. An epidemic is an outbreak of disease that spreads quickly and affects many individuals at the same time. So at the same time, if a disease has affected many people in the locality, in the area, that is when it is called as an epidemic. Now, what is a pandemic? Pandemic is a disease that occurs over a wide geographical area and affects an exceptionally high proportion of the population. So pandemic sort of is next level. Pandemic is at a greater level compared to an epidemic, right? So an outbreak, which is a sudden disease that just breaks out, an outbreak could actually be either an epidemic, or it could spiral and become a pandemic. So coronavirus apparently, yes, is a pandemic because it has affected so many people at such a larger scale throughout the world, which is why it is a pandemic and not an epidemic. It's not at a smaller scale. It has affected so many people throughout the world. There have been so many deaths, there have been so many cases which are being reported day in, day out. So coronavirus is a pandemic, right? So both, I mean, the three of these words differ from each other, but to a very slight degree. And because it is this corona era going on, and definitely these words are going to be used interchangeably, so it definitely is a great idea that we all are aware of their exact meaning. Community spread. What is the community spread? Okay, community spread is the spread of a contagious disease within a community, precisely or exactly what the coronavirus spread is like. So the coronavirus spread is actually community spread because it is so very contagious that if it happens to one person in a community, it inevitably is going to spread throughout, right? So that is when it is called as a community spread. So it is really important for us to understand how to actually stop a community spread. Community spread. Social distancing is the only and only way to stop a community spread, and which is why repeatedly social distancing has been overemphasized, so that we follow it and we avoid a community spread going forward. Okay. Prevention of community spreads requires the rapid investigation of contacts in the facility. Yes, if there is one person who's had a particular disease, or who's suffered from an infection and it is highly contagious, there are high chances that for sure it is going to be going to turn out into a community spread. So yes, as I told you, social distancing is the only way to avoid a community spread. Contact tracing. So the next step after community spread is contact tracing, because that particular disease is so very contagious. It is actually going to spread so quickly that contact tracing is the only way to avoid, of course, along with social distancing, contact tracing is yet another way to avoid unnecessary spread. So what is actually contact tracing? Again, this is a word which you are going to hear day in, day out with the coronavirus discussions flying all around. So the practice of identifying and monitoring individuals who may have contact with an infected person as a means of controlling the spread of a communicable disease. So if you need to control a communicable disease, precisely if we need to control coronavirus from spreading forward, we need to actually do contact tracing. We need to contact all the people who have been in contact with a person who is corona positive or who's been affected by coronavirus. So a very important method, a very important technique to avoid the spread of a pandemic. Well, last but not the least, yet another very important word which you will for sure hear, definitely considering the discussions which go on nowadays. Definitely martial law is another word which is going to definitely hit your ears. And what is it? Law administered by military forces that is invoked by the government in an emergency when the civilian law enforcement agencies are unable to maintain public order and security. So definitely, martial law, if you just go by the literal meaning, yes, it is more of a strict law which is sort of enforced on the public by the military forces because of the government orders which the military forces have received. But yes, considering the coronavirus situations, considering the way that it has been spreading, definitely martial law needs to be enforced on the society so that public gatherings are avoided, so that definitely social distancing is maintained, right? So these strict laws which will be enforced or which have been enforced and which are actually still in force, which are still in use for the common public, such laws are actually called as martial laws, and they are so very important to maintain law and order, to actually prevent any disease from spreading, along with the fact not just disease, but yes, if there is any security issue as well, and to improvise or to prevent any harm to the society, we need to actually apply or enforce a martial law. So such a law is actually called as a martial law, and this is yet another word which you will get to hear nowadays, considering the discussions which are just going on around. Well, I wish you all a very, very safe health, a very, very healthy life. I wish you all great health. I wish that none of you gets into a situation wherein your health degrades, and we all enjoy a healthy and a happy life. Well, keep learning with tutorials, point and tutorics. I will see you again in the next video. Have a good day.